E. O'Brien Murray, we call him Obi, is with us. He's a longtime Republican consultant strategist, and we want to get into what's happening with this Queens DA race, because I think something like this resonates around the rest of the country. So Obi came in, wore a tie and a jacket, looking so handsome, man.
Not as good as you. Not as good as you.
No, man, I'm just trying. I'm trying to keep up with you, my brother, my brother. So you look good. Thanks for coming in early in the morning. Wait, you were in the last blackout, you said? Not this blackout.
Not this one. The last one. I was stuck in the elevator.
You were a child. How did you get out of the elevator? Tell me. This is great.
Oh no, I was on the elevator, stuck with somebody from my building, and just pried the doors open after about 10 minutes.
You pried the doors open. I love it, man. I love it.
We realized that the power wasn't coming back on anytime, so we said, let's get out of here. This made it happen.
God. You're okay this time around?
No, it was fine. Yeah, fine.
Your apartment went dark?
My apartment went dark, but I wasn't home that night.
Goodness gracious. This is scary, though, man.
Yeah.
Hey, Obi, tell us about the Queens DA race. Where are we? Is there a recount? What's going to happen?
The recount started yesterday. They're going hand by hand, ballot by ballot to see what's happening. You'll still got a couple weeks, they say, to count every single ballot that was in that race by hand. They look for little marks. What ballots weren't counted that looked like somebody marked something for cats.
Like in Florida with the guy with the eye.
The hanging Chad. Yeah, they got to get the microscope out and see that little. Yes. Times have changed, Joe, but not that much.
Oh, yeah, it is. It's the same. Look, thank you, Frank.
Go. Yeah,
Frank just got me the picture into the
He's got his glasses up. He's got to look real close there. Yes.
Can we trust anybody?
Yeah, yes, you can. You know what? Most importantly, the system is got tremendous transparency. Everyone's there. As you see today, front page of the New York Times, you've got a picture there of people from the Republican side and the Democratic side looking at each piece. The media is there. It's wide open for transparency, no question about it. Every ballot that should be counted will be counted, and that's the important thing about democracy.
What's your prediction on this? Do you think that Melinda Katz pulls it out?
I think Katz does pull it out at this point. I haven't seen anything to say she doesn't. The difference would be if the judge comes in and talks about the affidavit ballots, the ballots that were cast on the day of the election from men and women that were not members of the Democratic Party or didn't fill those forms out properly, thought they were allowed to vote but weren't registered to vote, and the judge on that one could swing it either way. I'm sure they'll be fine with it as far as what they're doing the right thing, but that'll be a big issue because those ballots on election day were cast more so for Cobain than for Katz.
What's happening with Tiffany Caban? She wants to let. There's no consequences with this gal. So if you got somebody, I'm going to be the DA of Queens, and but I'm going to let people go in. You know what? We're going to let them out. I mean, the safety of your children. Who's electing these people?
This has happened in Philadelphia, too, though. And actually in Philadelphia, what's happened, the state attorney general is stepping in to prosecute cases in Philadelphia because the Philadelphia DA won't do it. And that's what's interesting about
and the crime in Philly's doing great, Obi. Have you looked at statistically?
I haven't seen it.
One of the great towns of all time, by the way. The city of brotherly.
Beautiful. Oh, fantastic.
But it is the crime. Check the crime. Thank God New York is the safest, biggest city in the country, thanks to Commissioner O'Neill and NYPD. But in Philly, they have little problems, and because they're letting people on the streets walk.
Little problems become big problems. It's the broken window syndrome that Rudy Giuliani started fixing back in 93, 94.
You're right, Larry. So I'm dying to hear your take on the Squad. It's like a TV show.
It's amazing. Everybody blames the other person for what is being said or done. I mean, if you look at today's New York Times, Joe, right over here, on the top of it right here, the lack of widespread Republican condemnation of President Trump is one story. The next sentence, first sentence of the next story, right next to it, President Trump under fire for comments even members of his own party called racist. Which one is it? The New York Times is saying it both ways. We're going after it, not going after it. But the reality is that these women who are elected by their constituents serve in the Congress. What their vision of America is and what my vision of America is, and I suspect yours is not the same. And I think that's the difference. And how those words are chosen and what's said, you know what words are like. If you're writing for SNL versus This Morning Show, very different audience at times than what you're going to do. And I think that's one of the challenges here where this is all going. But what these women have done is and it's women. There's not a man, there's four. It's four women that are doing this. So if there was a man in there, if there was a white man or a white woman, it'd be a different conversation, possibly. But they're using this opportunity to up their game and up I believe, their national presence, which is very bad for Pelosi. One of the things that this president has done is said, Pelosi's going after her, now let me go after them too. And whether it be AOC or the others, our own New York's AOC, he's really bringing them to the forefront now and giving them that much more visibility, which means Pelosi will have that much more trouble controlling them.
You know, as a consultant for the GOP, it must be frustrating because the president never said, go back to where you came from. He never said those words. Show me the audio where he said that. He just said, and I said it on the show, but thank God I don't have the platform of the president of the United States, so I can say what the heck I want. Oh, I said it. I said, look, after Somalia, look what happened in Somalia. Look, we lost 17 United States Army Marines. Black Hawk down. Oh, my God. She comes to Somalia. You know what? Thank you. Thank you, America. Now, I've learned from you. Let me go back to Somalia. I said this on the air. Let me help my own people. And when the president says it, it's like racist. It's racist to say, if you don't like it here, go back. I've said it. We've all said it. We're all thinking it. How do they misconstrue it?
But how many Democrats we knew that said, if this man, President Trump, were to win the presidency, I'm leaving the country?
Yeah,
They said they wanted to leave the country. Other people, not even this gang.
Cher was going to Jupiter, brother. What happened?
They were all leaving. I think Al Baldwin was leaving too at one point or something, right? Another SNL guy has been on there many a time. But what's happening now, I think, is when any little word is being said or actions taken, it's blown out of the water. It's just out of proportion. And it's no different, by the way. What President Obama tried to do with the borders is not very different than what President Trump is doing, but he's getting all the blame. And I sit here on this show. I've sat on shows before when President Obama was sitting there, and he was president. He was always my president. I never questioned that. Now they're calling him the occupant of the White House. They're not even referring to him as the president or clarifying that he is the president of the United States.
So walk me through this, not to get melodramatic, but I do.
We're on radio. We have to be.
I know. Maybe, but and so I will push buttons occasionally just to irritate some people, But when AOC is in and Rashida Tlaib is in, and certainly Ilhan Omar, don't know enough about Presley, but when they get in, they seem to be, and I say taking away the sovereignty of the United States. You said we have a difference of what America is. I don't know. They know. I don't think they care. Historically, they're wrong to make concentration camp analogies to what's going on the southern border of the United States. It's just dangerous now. We are at a point, and correct me if I'm wrong, because you're the professional, where the sovereignty and everything we believe in, everything my father fought for in the Second World War, is going to be taken away, brother.
Well, it's gonna. They want to make it a different country. They want to open up the borders.
What is that country?
Well, don't forget, AOC grew up in Yonkers. She didn't grow up in New York City.
Yeah.
She didn't grow up in the Bronx, where she claims she's from for purposes. By the way, talk about going back home. If she goes back home, it's Yonkers. It's Westchester. That's where AOC goes back to at this point. And I don't see any issues in Westchester other than taxes being raised now by the new Democratic county executive up there. So I digress a bit on this. But I think to your point, what is America going to be? What is it? And where was it? Where do we want to go? Now, obviously, countries change and they evolve. But when you have the greatest generation you're referring to, those men and women that fought for this country and put their lives on the line and sacrificed their families and put everything on hold to get us where we are today, where would that be today?
Yeah.
I mean, they even talk about JFK would not be a Democrat today.
Yeah.
What would they be going against him? They almost want to go against Barack Obama. At this point. Joe Biden is on the radio fighting, saying there are Democrats coming to me that don't want to say this publicly, that they're willing to work with Republicans and reach across the aisle, but we can't say it, Joe. You got to say it for us.
I know.
This is the Democratic Party of today now.
I know.
That they can't work across the aisle and work together.
I wonder if it's just an image or if it's just like PR, because we talked to some good Democrats, conservative Democrats that we have on the show in New Jersey, and they're like kind of blue dogs. Remember Remember that term, blue dogs?
I'm old enough to remember that.
I was one of them, man. I was a blue dog. Now I don't know what I am, a conservative, libertarian. I don't even know what I am. But a lot of those blue dog Democrats are very smart. They're ahead of the curve. Those people could give Donald Trump a run for his money in 2020. But this fiasco, this circus, this zoo that is now the Democratic Party, right now, Donald Trump wins in a landslide.
It's a circling firing squad.
Yeah.
What I've always said is Joe Biden's numbers are the highest they're going to be right now. Anybody that's in the polling for the Democratic Party, I believe, has already looked at Joe Biden, has already looked at Bernie Sanders, and has decided to go elsewhere. As somebody else drops out of the race, like a Bill de Blasio, when he's out, his numbers being less than 1% won't matter. But when you add up a few of those guys, you get a half a dozen points, a 10-point number. I don't see those people going to Bernie Sanders or going to to Joe Biden at this point. I think that's going to be their challenge. And as somebody coalescing around a Harris possibly at this point, which seems to be the one, or Warren, those numbers will go up. And then people will say, wait a second, somebody else can take on the president maybe. They'll believe Warren can. I don't believe she can. They'll believe Harris can. I don't believe she can.
As a professional, man, who's the guy that says to Bill de Blasio, "Now you can win this, pal. You're doing good." You know, I mean,
Bill de Blasio.
That's the only one.
Oh, no, his wife. His wife's the other one, too.
Right? I mean, come on, who doesn't somebody go, Bill, can we talk a second? He's not really happening. I mean, no one's saying this.
The challenge is he has, I don't know if you saw him. He was on a New York channel, New York One last night. He was on talking about. He's
in town.
He was in town having an interview, and he said he's the CEO of New York, and then he was asked, but what about if the CEO is out of the country, out of town, looking for another job? You're looking for another job.
That's right.
But he's term limited. So what is he going to do politically? The downside of him running is what we're seeing today.
Yeah.
There was really not a downside for him to run. But when he leaves the city and something happens, you can't predict. This isn't a hurricane coming up the coast where you got days' notice. But when police officers are shot and first responders are injured, and when something like this happens with a blackout and you're not there, Andrew Cuomo filled the void. The speaker of the city council filled the void.
Did a great job. Corey did a great job.
He was out in the streets. He was tweeting. He was doing.
Did a great job.
These are things that Bill de Blasio could have done on the road.
That's right.
He didn't.
That's right. That's a good point.
And if he had his campaign was strong enough, had the money, they would have literally brought up a private jet, flown him back to New York. He would have been here by midnight.
Yeah. And how's de Blasio getting his money, man? I mean, who's he getting his money from? Do we know?
I haven't looked at the report came out late yesterday. I have not pulled the whole report.
Yeah.
He's got less than 7,000 donors, from what I understand. He's got less than $1 million cash on hand.
Yeah.
So he's gonna have a real problem getting to debates in September. He's got one coming up later this month. Obviously, he's in, and he did raise. The interesting thing is he raised most of his money after the last debate in his performance.
Yeah. You know, I got a 817 with Joe on the radio with Obi Murray, E. O'Brien Murray, longtime Republican consultant, strategist. I love your laser focused on all this stuff. I got to give, and I know I've been very disappointed in my longtime acquaintance, Andrew Cuomo. I've been very disappointed when you say America was never that great. He backs the infanticide. I do not understand it, but he did a great job in this blackout. You got to give
He did. He stepped up.
Yeah.
Remember, he and de Blasio have their own infighting.
Oh,
so the
I love
minute
it.
that he hears de Blasio's out of town doing something, he's probably sitting home saying, guys, what can we do? What can we do?
Get the job.
And his staff calls him and says, Governor, we've got good news and bad news. The bad news is there's a blackout in New York City. The good news is de Blasio's not there.
It really works that way in the world of politics, I guess. Huh?
That's an old story where there was an earthquake in California. Governor, good news is there's it's an election year. Bad news is an earthquake.
Oh, my Lord. Hey, so Arthur Goldberg.
Oh, yeah, sure.
When did you work with Arthur?
Oh, God. I worked with Arthur after I left Steve Wynn back in the mid-'90s. Yeah,
and we chatted about so
right when he sold. I don't have time for it today, probably, but when meeting him over the years was fantastic. When he asked me to work for him, when he had sold Bally's to Hilton, I had started working for him right around then.
Forgive me, but the friends I've had in my life, and you're listening to Piscopo in the morning and watching with E. O'Brien Murray, 818. Arthur Goldberg is one of my dearest friends. He was a powerful businessman out of Newark. Since passed away.
Oh, yeah.
And he in Vegas. He was in Vegas.
Oh, yeah.
He would bring me out to Vegas with him. He was always, and what a character. And I think, and you talk about Steve Wynn. You talk about Arthur Goldberg. You talk about some of these guys, I think maybe that's why the casinos don't have the tenor that they have these days. You need somebody like that.
They went corporate.
Merv Griffin. Remember when Merv?
Oh, sure.
Or when Donald Trump owned the Taj Mahal. That's when it was booming. Everybody was, you had a personality attached to the property.
They were personalities. They went corporate along the way, and once they went corporate, I believe the personalities disappeared. There's a way to be corporate and have the personality.
Yeah.
When the two go together and the personality goes, the competition's different. They want to have more steadier quarterly reports and things of that sort. But then the draw, I believe, and the characters. I mean, these are terrific men and women. Elaine Wynn, Steve's wife, was out there doing things at times.
Where's Steve Wynn now? He just went away.
He went off in the sunset for the time being, trying to figure out what to do next with
but he'll always be back.
So, his name's all over the skyline everywhere else.
It's so
true. Not his name, his imprint, because he was there hands-on, literally.
Yeah.
I don't know if people know, but your listeners, He's blind. He's legally blind. He can't drive and so forth, but he still is a hands-on man.
Okay, Steve Wynn,
with
legally
design.
blind. If you saw the commercial, Steve Wynn's standing on the edge of his new Wynn property.
Yeah.
Well, Steve, it's okay. Another step. It's okay. I mean, come on. Was he blind?
I wasn't working for him at that point, but yeah, I saw that.
All right. Where am I going? One more step there. One more, Steve. I mean, you can't even. He's on the edge of the building at the top of Las Vegas. I'd be scared out of my mind. God bless him, huh?
Oh, he was magnificent.
Hey, before we go, so Kamala Harris. I don't know why I can't.
She was. This is going to be a textbook for people to watch debate prep, because she stepped into that arena and knew what she was going to do, and Joe Biden never saw it coming. He knew he was going to be schooled possibly on race relations in the Democratic Party, what had to be done. But when she said, and we look at that clip, that young girl was me. He literally turned, and you could just see the look on his face. He knew, that personal connection. And she held that in her hand until the moment she felt it was right to do it. And it was terrifically delivered, and magnificently.
But a flawed argument, because you could debate busing, and it wasn't the time. And he said, turn it to the states, but you can't get to it. You can't be concise.
If you're explaining, you're losing.
Yeah.
The minute she hit him, he had to explain it, and that's when he was back on his heels.
Oh, but you are good, man. You are good.
Thanks,
Great
Joe.
to always enjoy you, man, on the show. Please come back again
anytime.
There he is, E. O'Brien.